The great hall of the Galactic Concord stretched for nearly a mile in every direction. Its walls were made of living crystal that had been growing for 10,000 years. The crystal remembered everything. Every word spoken in this chamber lived forever in its structure. Every decision, every treaty, every declaration of war and peace existed somewhere in those glowing walls. Today, 12 species had gathered for the monthly assembly. Representatives from across the galaxy sat in their designated sections. Some breathed oxygen, others survived on methane or pure radiation. A few existed as pure energy, their forms flickering like flames in specially designed containment fields. At the center of it all sat the Council of Elders. These were not simply old politicians or experienced diplomats. The elders were ancient beyond measure. The youngest among them had lived for 6,000 years. The oldest, a crystalline being known simply as the Arbiter, claimed to remember the formation of the Concord itself. The Arbiter rarely spoke. When he did, the galaxy listened. But today, the assembly focused on more routine matters. Trade disputes between the Morvani and the Stellar Collective, a minor border conflict in the Outer Rim, the usual business of keeping 12 species from destroying each other. Then the doors opened, and High Commander Theron Vass of the Velcari Empire strode into the chamber. The Velcari were the newest members of the Concord, having achieved faster-than-light travel only 800 years ago. In galactic terms, they were children. They stood nearly 8 feet tall, their bodies covered in thick scales of deep purple and black. Their eyes glowed with an inner fire that reflected their aggressive nature. Theron was considered young even by Velcari standards. He had risen to power through a combination of military genius and political cunning. Many on the council distrusted him, but none could deny his effectiveness. He walked to the center of the chamber and waited for recognition. The current speaker, a gas giant dwelling creature called Mothral, acknowledged him with a wave of its tentacles. High Commander Theron, you have requested emergency time before this assembly. State your purpose. Theron's voice boomed through the hall. I bring news of opportunity. As you know, the humans have begun expanding their trade routes near Velcari border space. A ripple of unease passed through the assembly. Several of the elders shifted in their seats. The Arbiter's crystalline form flickered with internal light. Theron continued, seemingly unaware of the reaction. These humans possess something valuable, a rare isotope called Helion-7. It exists only in their territory. This substance can improve our FTL drives by 300%. Imagine what we could achieve with such technology. What exactly are you proposing? Mothral asked carefully. I am proposing that we open formal negotiations with the humans, perhaps establish a trade agreement. Their technology is primitive, their military weak. They would benefit greatly from our protection and guidance. The chamber fell silent. It was not the silence of consideration. It was the silence of fear. Finally, an elder spoke. Her name was Vesizara, and she had been old when the Velcari were still building their first cities. Her body was wrapped in flowing robes that hid whatever form lay beneath. High Commander, she said, her voice like wind through dead leaves. You speak of the humans. Are you aware of Directive 7? Theron's scales rippled with annoyance. I am aware of it. I find it absurd. Another ripple of unease. This time, it bordered on panic. Directive 7 clearly states, Vesara continued, that humanity is to be left undisturbed. No contact, no provocation, no exceptions. This directive is the foundation of Concord law. It supersedes all other considerations. And I am asking why, Theron replied. I have studied the humans. They occupy perhaps 40 star systems. Their ships are slow and poorly armed. Their lifespans are laughably short. They pose no threat to anyone. You have studied them, Vesara said. But you do not understand them. Then explain it to me. Theron spread his arms wide. I see a species that barely qualifies as spacefaring. Why should the mighty Galactic Concord fear such creatures? For a long moment, no one spoke. Then, slowly, the Arbiter rose from his seat. The entire assembly held its breath. The Arbiter had not spoken in open session for over a century. His crystalline body towered over even the Velcari, ancient beyond comprehension, radiating power that made the air itself tremble. Young Commander, the Arbiter said. His voice was like grinding stone, deep and resonant. I will tell you why we fear the humans. I will tell you because you must understand. Because your ignorance could doom us all. Theron tried to maintain his confident posture, but even he could not entirely hide his unease in the Arbiter's presence. 3,000 years ago, the Arbiter began. A species called the HFY dominated this region of the galaxy. They were insectoid beings, vast in number, unified in purpose. Their empire spanned 200 star systems. They feared nothing and no one. The Arbiter paused, letting the weight of his words settle over the assembly. The HFY discovered humanity when humans were just beginning to explore beyond their home world. They saw a soft, fragile species. Weak, divided, easy prey. The HFY attacked human colony worlds. They burned cities. They slaughtered millions. They believed they were simply culling a lesser species before it could become a nuisance. Theron shifted uncomfortably. I have never heard of the HFY. No, the Arbiter said. You have not, because the HFY no longer exist. Humanity erased them from the universe so completely that most species have forgotten they ever lived. The silence that followed was absolute. The humans did not respond to the attacks immediately. The Arbiter continued. This confused the HFY. They expected either surrender or wild, disorganized resistance. Instead, they received nothing. Silence. For nearly 30 years, the humans appeared to simply accept their fate, but they were not accepting anything. They were learning, adapting. The humans captured HFY ships and took them apart piece by piece. They studied HFY biology. They mapped every HFY world, every trade route, every military installation. They did this quietly, patiently, with a dedication that bordered on obsession. The Arbiter's form flickered with ancient memories. And then, when they were ready, they struck. The humans did not attack a single world. They attacked all of them. Simultaneously, in a single day, they hit 47 star systems across HFY space. They used weapons no one had ever seen before. Some were technological, others were biological. Several defied understanding entirely. The HFY tried to respond, but their communications were already compromised. Their fleets were destroyed before they could organize. Their leaders were assassinated in their own chambers by humans who had infiltrated their society years before. Within 1 year, the HFY empire was gone. Not conquered, not subjugated, gone. The humans did not want territory. They did not want resources. They wanted extinction, and they achieved it. Theron's scales had gone pale. How many HFY were there? 14 trillion, the Arbiter said. 14 trillion sentient beings, erased from existence because they made the mistake of harming humanity. That is impossible, Theron whispered. No species could accomplish such a thing, and yet they did. I watched it happen, Commander. I watched worlds burn. I watched a civilization that had existed for 10,000 years vanish in less than one. And when it was over, the humans simply returned to their territory and resumed their lives as if nothing had happened. The Arbiter moved closer to Theron, his crystalline form casting strange shadows across the floor. We formed the Conquered in the aftermath of that war, not to unite against external threats, not to promote trade or peace. We formed the Conquered for one reason, and one reason only, to ensure that no species would ever provoke the humans again. Directive 7 is not a law, Commander. It is a survival imperative. The humans are not weak. They are sleeping. And we have spent 3,000 years making absolutely certain that nothing disturbs their slumber. Theron was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, some of his confidence had returned. With respect, Arbiter, that was 3,000 years ago. Times change. Species evolve. Perhaps the humans have become soft in their isolation. Several elders made sounds of distress. Vesisara shook her head slowly. The Arbiter simply stared at Theron. You believe the ancient warnings are exaggeration. You believe we are frightened old fools clinging to outdated fears. I believe, Theron said carefully, that the Concord should not make policy based on events from before most of our species achieved spaceflight. Then let me give you more recent evidence. The Arbiter raised one crystalline limb, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. 17 years ago, a Velkari merchant vessel strayed into human space. A simple navigation error. The humans detected the vessel immediately. The display showed a small freighter drifting near a human border station. Within minutes, the vessel was surrounded by human warships, ships that appeared from nowhere, as if they had been waiting. The Valkyrie captain transmitted apologies, explaining the error. The humans escorted the vessel back to the border without incident. That seems reasonable, Theron said. They showed restraint. They showed restraint because there was no provocation. The Arbiter's voice hardened. But consider this. The moment that vessel entered human space, every system on board was infiltrated by human software. We only discovered this years later. That software mapped every piece of Valkyrie technology, every communication protocol, every security system. It then transmitted all of this data back to human space and erased itself without a trace. A single brief encounter, Commander. And the humans learned more about your civilization than you know about yourselves. They did not attack because there was no reason to attack, but they prepared for the possibility. They are always preparing. Theron said nothing. The humans do not seek conflict, the Arbiter continued. They have no interest in conquest or expansion. They want only to live in peace. But they are incapable of forgetting an injury. They are incapable of forgiving an attack. And they are incapable of fighting a limited war. If you provoke them, Commander, they will not simply defeat you. They will destroy everything you are. Your military, your economy, your culture, your species. They will not stop until there is nothing left. And the rest of the galaxy will stand by and watch. Because we know that any attempt to help you would simply add our names to their list. The Arbiter returned to his seat, his ancient form settling back into stillness. That is why Directive 7 exists. That is why we avoid humanity. Not because they are weak. Because they are the single most dangerous species this galaxy has ever produced. And they do not know it. They do not see themselves as conquerors or destroyers. They see themselves as ordinary beings, living ordinary lives. But when they are threatened, when their people are harmed, something awakens in them. Something cold and patient and utterly without mercy. The Kethrai saw it. The Kethrai did not survive to warn others. We are that warning now, Commander. Heed it. The assembly waited for Theron's response. The High Commander stood in the center of the chamber, his scales shifting through colors that indicated deep thought. Finally, he bowed his head. I hear the wisdom of the elders. I will consider these words carefully. He turned and walked out of the chamber without another word. The assembly breathed a collective sigh of relief. Mothral prepared to move on to the next item of business, but the Arbiter remained still, his crystalline eyes fixed on the door through which Theron had departed. He did not believe us, Vesera said quietly. No, the Arbiter agreed. He did not. What will he do? The Arbiter was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was heavy with resignation. He will do what the young and ambitious always do. He will test the boundaries. He will push against the limits. He will convince himself that the old warnings are exaggeration and superstition. And then we will discover whether 3,000 years has been long enough for the humans to forget what they are capable of. The crystal walls of the chamber pulsed with ancient light. Somewhere in their structure, a new memory was forming. A memory of warning ignored. And far across the galaxy, on the border between Valkyrie space and human territory, 3 human merchant vessels went about their business, unaware that their fate had just been decided in a chamber of living crystal. They would learn soon enough. Everyone would. The capture was almost embarrassingly easy. 3 human merchant vessels drifted through the empty space near the Valkyrie border, their cargo holds full of Helion-7 isotopes bound for distant markets. They flew no weapons. They carried no military escort. They were simply traders, doing what traders had done since the beginning of civilization. High Commander Theron watched from the bridge of his flagship as 12 Valkyrie warships surrounded the tiny human convoy. Signal them, he ordered. Tell them they are in violation of Valkyrie territorial law. They are to power down their engines and prepare for boarding. The communications officer hesitated. Sir, our records show they are well within neutral space. There is no violation. Then our records are wrong, Theron said calmly. Update them. The officer swallowed hard and transmitted the message. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a response came through, audio only. The voice was female, calm, and completely unafraid. Valkyrie vessels. This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the merchant ship Horizon's Edge. We are operating in neutral space under conquered trade agreements. Please explain the nature of this contact. Theron smiled. Tell her that new intelligence suggests this region has been reclassified as Valkyrie sovereign territory. Her vessels are trespassing. They will be taken into custody pending investigation. Another hesitation from the communications officer. Another hard swallow. Another transmission. Captain Vasquez's response came quickly. We do not recognize any reclassification. We request confirmation from Concord authorities. Tell her, Theron said, his voice hardening, that Concord authorities are not relevant here. She will comply, or her vessels will be destroyed. The communications officer transmitted the message. This time, the pause was longer. Then Captain Vasquez spoke again. Her voice had not changed, still calm, still unafraid. But something in her tone made even Theron's scales prickle with unease. Understood, Valkyrie Commander. We will comply. Please note that this action has been recorded and transmitted to human space. The message will arrive in approximately 4 hours. Theron waved dismissively. Let them send their messages. By the time anyone responds, this matter will be settled. The boarding was quick and efficient. Valkyrie soldiers moved through the 3 merchant vessels, securing the crew and cataloging the cargo. 47 humans in total were taken into custody, including Captain Vasquez and her senior officers. They did not resist. They did not argue. They simply allowed themselves to be led to detention cells aboard the Valkyrie flagship, their expressions unreadable. Theron watched the proceedings from his command chair, satisfaction spreading through his chest. This was too easy. The elders were fools, terrified of shadows and ancient history. The humans were nothing special. As the fleet prepared to return to Valkyrie space, his second-in-command approached. High Commander, the human captain is requesting to speak with you. Theron considered refusing. But curiosity won out. Bring her to the observation deck. I will hear what she has to say. Captain Elena Vasquez was shorter than Theron had expected. Humans were small creatures, fragile and soft. This one was middle-aged by human standards, her dark hair streaked with gray, her face weathered by years of space travel. She walked with a slight limp, the result of some old injury, yet something about her made Theron uncomfortable. Perhaps it was her eyes. They were brown, warm, almost kind. But behind that warmth was something else, something that measured and calculated and filed information away for future use. High Commander Theron Vas, she said, her Valkyrie pronunciation surprisingly good. I know who you are. I am flattered. You should not be. She moved to the observation window, gazing out at the stars. I know your military record. I know your political ambitions. I know the names of your family members and the locations of your private residences. I know the access codes to your personal communication channels. Theron's scales shifted to a defensive pattern. You are bluffing. Perhaps. She turned to face him. Or perhaps you underestimate how carefully we watch those who might become threats. Threats? Theron laughed. Your people occupy 40 star systems. The Valkyrie Empire commands 300. You are not in a position to threaten anyone. We are not threatening you, Commander. We have never threatened you. We have asked only to be left alone. Her voice remained calm, almost gentle. You are the one who has taken aggressive action. You are the one who has captured our vessels and imprisoned our people. The question now is what happens next. What happens next is that you will be taken to Valkyrie Prime. Your cargo will be impounded. You and your crew will be held until your government agrees to renegotiate the terms of human access to this region of space. I see. She nodded slowly, as if considering his words carefully. And if our government refuses, then you will remain our guests indefinitely. Elena Vasquez smiled. It was a small smile, almost sad. Commander, may I share an observation? Theron gestured for her to continue. In your culture, when a conflict arises, you respond immediately. You escalate quickly, demonstrate strength, force your opponent to back down. This approach has worked well for you within the Concord, where other species fear your military power. We do what is necessary. Yes. And you expect us to do the same. You expect us to send angry transmissions. You expect us to dispatch whatever small fleet we possess. You expect us to huff and puff and eventually accept terms that favor you. She moved closer to him. Despite her small size, despite her captivity, despite everything, she showed no fear. But that is not what will happen. What will happen is nothing. Theron's scales rippled with confusion. Nothing? Nothing. For a while at least. Days, weeks, perhaps months. You will hear no response from human space. No demands, no threats. No fleet mobilization. Silence. Then your government is even weaker than I thought. No. Commander. Her smile faded. Our government is not weak. Our government is patient. And right now, somewhere in human space, people are being awakened from their beds, files are being opened, plans are being made. Everything that can be known about the Velkhari Empire is being gathered and analyzed. We are not the Kethrai. We have no intention of harming your people. The Kethrai said the same thing, Commander. Right up until they started killing humans. They thought they could control the situation. They thought they could take what they wanted without consequence. They were wrong. Theron stepped closer, using his height to tower over her. Are you threatening me? No. I am warning you. There is a difference. She looked up at him without flinching. You have made your choice. You have captured our ships and taken our people. That choice cannot be undone. But what happens next is still in your hands. Return us. Return our cargo. Issue a formal apology. Do this quickly, and this matter can still end peacefully. Wait too long. And, she shrugged. Well, you have heard of the Kethrai. Theron grabbed her arm, his claws digging into her flesh. She did not cry out. She did not pull away. She simply looked at his hand with an expression of mild curiosity. You think I am afraid of your legends? He hissed. You think I will release you because of stories told by senile elders? I think you should be afraid. Her voice did not change. But I know you are not. The young are rarely afraid until it is too late. He released her, disgusted. Take her back to her cell. I am done listening to human superstition. As the guards led her away, she called back over her shoulder. You have made your choice, Commander. I hope your people have made peace with their gods. Theron watched her go, then turned to stare out at the stars. For just a moment, he felt a chill run through his scales. Then he pushed it aside. Human tricks, human mind games, nothing more. He had made his choice, and he would not back down. Across the galaxy, in the great hall of the conquered, the Arbiter sat in perfect stillness. His crystalline form had not moved in 3 days. His attention was focused entirely on the reports flowing in from across known space. The humans had done nothing. No transmissions, no fleet movements, no diplomatic protests. Nothing. This was what frightened him most. Vesazara entered the chamber and approached his seat. Arbiter. The other elders are growing concerned. Some believe we should intervene. Demand that the Velkhari release the human prisoners. Intervention would only make things worse, the Arbiter said. The humans must see this as a Velkhari action, not a Concord action. If we involve ourselves, they may expand their response to include us. So we do nothing? We do the only thing we can do. We wait. And we prepare. Prepare for what? The Arbiter's form flickered with ancient light. Prepare for the possibility that we have just witnessed the beginning of the Second Human War. Vesazara shuddered. Surely it will not come to that. The Velkhari are not the Kethrai. They have not killed anyone. No, not yet. But High Commander Theron is proud and ambitious. He will not back down easily. And the longer he holds those prisoners, the more time the humans have to prepare. Prepare what? Their military is tiny compared to the Velkhari. The Arbiter turned to face her. You still do not understand, do you? Human strength is not in their military. It is in their minds, in their patience, in their absolute refusal to accept defeat. They are, even now, learning everything about the Velkhari. They are finding weaknesses that the Velkhari themselves do not know they have. They are developing plans and contingencies and fallback positions. They are testing Velkhari security systems, mapping Velkhari space, identifying every possible target, and they are doing all of this in silence, without warning, without mercy. Vesazara was quiet for a moment. What should we do? Begin evacuating non-essential personnel from systems bordering Velkhari space. Quietly. Do not cause panic, but get our people to safety. You believe it is that serious? I believe that 3,000 years ago, the Kethrai believed they were untouchable. I believe the Velkhari believe the same thing now. And I believe that humanity has not changed. They have not grown soft. They have not forgotten what they are capable of. They have simply been waiting for a reason to remember. In a holding cell aboard the Velkhari flagship, Captain Elena Vasquez sat with her back against the wall, her eyes closed. Around her, the other human prisoners maintained similar postures, calm, patient, waiting. A Valkyrie guard passed by their cells regularly, observing them with growing confusion. He had expected fear, anger, desperation. Instead, he found only silence. On his 10th pass, one of the younger prisoners, a man named David Chen, opened his eyes and smiled at the guard. "Everything okay out there?" David asked pleasantly. The guard grunted and moved on, unsettled in a way he could not explain. Captain Vasquez opened her eyes and looked at David. "Patience, Mr. Chen." "I know, Captain. I just wanted to see how he reacted." "And?" David's smile widened slightly. "He is scared, Captain. He does not know why yet, but he is scared." Elena nodded and closed her eyes again. "They will all be scared soon enough. How long do you think, Captain?" "A few months. Maybe less. Our people do not rush these things, but they do not forget either." She thought about her crew. 47 men and women, taken from their ships and thrown into cells. Most of them were simply traders, people who wanted nothing more than to move cargo and earn a living. They had done nothing to deserve this, and yet none of them showed fear. None of them begged or pleaded. They knew what was coming. They had heard the stories passed down through generations. They understood what it meant when humanity was wronged. The Valkyrie thought they had taken prisoners. They were wrong. They had taken hostages. And somewhere in human space, a very old clock had just started ticking. Captain Vasquez smiled to herself in the darkness of her cell. The Valkyrie believed this story was about them. They believed they were the protagonists, the powerful empire teaching a lesser species its place. They were wrong about that, too. This story was about humanity. It had always been about humanity. And the Valkyrie were about to learn, as the Kethrai had learned before them, that some stories do not end the way the villains expect. Some stories end with extinction. 6 months had passed since the capture of the human merchant vessels. 6 months of complete silence from human space. No diplomatic protests, no military posturing, no threats of any kind. High Commander Theron Voss stood before the Valkyrie Senate, basking in the glow of his apparent victory. "The elders warned us that humanity was dangerous," he declared, his voice echoing through the ornate chamber. "They told us stories of ancient wars and terrible vengeance. They demanded we live in fear of a species that cannot even muster a response to our actions." Senators shifted in their seats. Some looked uncomfortable. Others nodded along, eager to show support for the rising military leader. 6 months, Theron continued. 6 months we have held their people. 6 months we have controlled their precious isotope trade. And what has humanity done? Nothing. Because they are nothing. Weak, divided, incapable of challenging true galactic power. He paused dramatically. "I propose that we expand our territorial claims. The humans have proven they will not fight back. We should take advantage of this weakness. The isotope deposits in their space could fuel our expansion for centuries." The Senate erupted in debate. Some supported Theron's aggressive stance. Others urged caution. But no one could deny the apparent success of his gamble. Far above Valkyrie Prime, in the flagship that had become a permanent symbol of Theron's triumph, things were not going as smoothly. Fleet Admiral Koravan stared at her console with growing confusion. "Run the diagnostic again." "This is the 5th diagnostic, Admiral," her chief engineer said. "The results are the same. Minor fluctuations in our communication relays. Occasional delays in data transmission. Nothing critical. But the patterns are unusual." "Unusual how?" "They appear almost random. But there is something underneath, a structure we cannot quite identify. It is like someone is testing our systems, probing for weaknesses." Koravan frowned. She had served in the Valkyrie military for 40 years. She had survived 3 border wars and countless skirmishes. Her instincts had kept her alive when others died. Right now, her instincts were screaming. "Increase security protocols on all sensitive systems," she ordered. "And flag this for High Commander Theron's attention. The High Commander has marked all human-related concerns as low priority, Admiral. Then mark it as a routine maintenance issue. Just get it on his desk." The engineer nodded and hurried away. Koravan turned back to the viewport, staring out at the stars. Something was wrong. She could feel it, like a predator watching from the shadows. But whenever she tried to identify the source, there was nothing there, just silence. The first real incident occurred 3 weeks later. A Valkyrie supply convoy traveling through Sector 7 experienced a complete navigation failure. All 12 vessels suddenly received coordinates that placed them 300 light-years from their actual position. By the time the error was discovered, they had drifted into an uncharted asteroid field. 2 ships were destroyed. 47 crew members died. The official report blamed a software malfunction. Then the communications started going wrong. Military transmissions arrived hours late, sometimes days late. When they did arrive, portions were missing or corrupted. Classified orders appeared in civilian channels. Civilian messages appeared in classified channels. The official reports blamed aging infrastructure. Then the personnel files became corrupted. Promotion records vanished. Service histories were altered. Security clearances disappeared and reappeared at random. 3 admirals were briefly listed as deceased. A junior officer was temporarily promoted to Supreme Commander before the error was caught. The official reports blamed administrative oversights. High Commander Theron dismissed all of these concerns. Coincidences, he declared. The Empire is vast. Systems fail. Mistakes happen. This has nothing to do with the humans. But others were not so certain. In the Concorde's Great Hall, the Arbiter had stopped pretending to be inactive. His crystalline form pulsed with energy as he processed the reports flowing in from Velkari space. "It has begun," he announced to the assembled elders. Vesara leaned forward. "The glitches? The system failures? They are not glitches. They are not failures. They are messages." "Messages? From the humans?" "Yes. They are demonstrating their capabilities, showing the Velkari what they have achieved, without the Velkari even knowing they were under attack." "How is that possible?" "The Velkari have some of the most advanced security systems in the Concorde." The Arbiter's form flickered with what might have been dark amusement. "The Velkari believe their systems are secure because they can detect attacks from other Concorde species. They have never faced human infiltration. They do not understand what they are dealing with. The human algorithms are not like ours. They do not simply attack or defend. They learn. They adapt. They evolve. Every attempt to detect them teaches them something new. Every security measure becomes a stepping stone. By now, I estimate that human software has infiltrated every major Velkari system. Their military networks, their financial systems, their power grids, their food distribution, their medical databases, everything." Vesara was silent for a moment. "And they have not attacked yet?" "No. They are still gathering information, still preparing, still giving the Velkari chances to return their prisoners." "What happens when they stop giving chances?" The Arbiter did not answer. He did not need to. On Velkari Prime, in the maximum security facility where the human prisoners were held, Captain Elena Vasquez received an unexpected visitor. Fleet Admiral Koravan stood outside her cell, studying her with calculating eyes. Unlike Theron, there was no arrogance in her gaze. Only caution. Only awareness. "Captain Vasquez," Koravan said, "I believe we should talk." Elena rose from her bunk and approached the barrier. "Admiral, this is unexpected. I have been studying your people, Captain. Not the official records, the old records, the ones that predate the Concorde. And what have you found?" "Disturbing things." Koravan's scales shifted to a muted gray, a color of deep concern. "The Kethri were not weak. They were one of the most powerful species in this region of space. Their fall was not gradual. It was absolute. History is often unkind to those who underestimate their enemies. Is that what we are doing, underestimating you?" Elena considered the question carefully. "Admiral, may I be honest with you? Please. I have been in this cell for 6 months. In that time, I have been fed. I have been given medical care when needed. I have not been tortured or abused. Your people have treated us with professional courtesy. This gives me hope." Koravan tilted her head. "Hope? Hope that this can still end without destruction. The choice remains with you. Return us. Apologize. End this before it goes further. High Commander Theron will never agree to that. He believes he has won. Then High Commander Theron has already lost. He simply does not know it yet." Koravan was quiet for a long moment. "What is happening to our systems, Captain? Our communications, our navigation, our personnel files. We cannot find the source." Elena smiled sadly. "You cannot find the source because the source is everywhere. Your systems are no longer yours, Admiral. They have not been yours for months." The color drained from Koravan's scales. "That is impossible. We would have detected an intrusion. You did not detect anything because there was nothing to detect. Human algorithms do not intrude. They become part of your systems. They learn your protocols. They follow your rules. They are invisible because they are indistinguishable from your own software. By the time you notice something wrong, it is already too late. The infection is total. Koravan stepped back, her military training struggling against rising panic. You are lying. This is psychological warfare. You want us to doubt ourselves. I am telling you the truth because I want you to understand. I want you to convince your people to end this, because if you do not end it, my people will, and they will not end it gently. That night, Koravan submitted a classified report to High Command, outlining her concerns about possible human infiltration. The report was marked urgent, requiring immediate review. It sat unread for 3 days. When it was finally reviewed, the officer responsible for classification protocols noted that the report had been automatically downgraded to low priority by an unknown system process. He reported this anomaly to his superior. His superior's response never arrived. The anomalies continued to spread. Weapons systems reported false targeting data. Shield generators fluctuated at random intervals. Engine diagnostics showed perfect function on vessels that were actually experiencing mechanical failures. And still, High Commander Theron insisted everything was fine. The humans were beaten. The Empire was secure. Nothing was wrong. Then the transmission arrived. It came through every Valkyrie channel simultaneously. Military, civilian, government, private. Every screen on every world in Valkyrie space displayed the same message. It contained no threats, no demands. It contained only data. The complete personnel files of every Valkyrie military officer, from the lowest recruit to High Commander Theron himself. Service records, personal communications, medical histories, family connections, the locations of every secret military installation, including facilities so classified that even most admirals did not know they existed. The access codes to every defense network, every weapons system, every orbital platform, and at the end, a detailed file on High Commander Theron. His home address, his family members, his children's names, their school schedules, their favorite routes home. The message attached to this data package was simple. You have 14 standard days to return our people unharmed. This is not a negotiation. Panic spread through the Valkyrie command structure like fire through dry grass. Officers who had supported Theron suddenly found reasons to distance themselves. Senators who had praised his boldness suddenly remembered urgent business elsewhere. Theron himself stood in his command center, staring at the data on his screens. His scales had gone white with shock. His claws trembled. How? He whispered. How did they get all of this? No one answered. No one had an answer to give. Across the galaxy, other species watched with growing fear. The Morvani quietly moved their border fleets away from Valkyrie space. The Stellar Collective issued a statement of neutrality. Even the most aggressive species in the Concord found reasons to avoid any association with the Valkyrie. No one wanted to be standing near the target when the humans finally struck. In the Concord's Great Hall, the Arbiter addressed the assembled elders. 14 days, he said. The humans have given the Valkyrie 14 days. It is more generous than I expected. Will Theron comply? Vesara asked. I do not know. His pride may override his survival instinct. And if it does, the Arbiter's form flickered with something that might have been sorrow. Then we will witness something that has not happened in 3,000 years. And the Valkyrie will learn why their elders warned them never to provoke humanity. In her cell on Valkyrie Prime, Captain Elena Vasquez felt the change in the air before she heard the news. Guards who had been professional became nervous. Their movements became jerky, their eyes constantly checking shadows. One of them finally spoke to her, his voice barely above a whisper. The transmission, he said. We all received it. Everyone knows. Elena nodded calmly. Then you understand what is coming. What do we do? She looked at the young guard, seeing the fear in his eyes. He was barely an adult by Valkyrie standards. He had simply been doing his job, following orders. He did not deserve what was coming. Convince your commanders to return us, she said gently. Quickly, while there is still time. And if they refuse? Elena did not answer. She did not need to. The guard walked away, his scales pale with dread, and somewhere in human space, the clock continued to tick. 14 days, 13, 12. The countdown had begun. On the 15th day, High Commander Theron stood before an emergency session of the Velkari Senate. He wore his full military uniform, every medal and ribbon displayed proudly. His scales had returned to their normal deep purple, his confidence restored through sheer force of will. "The deadline has passed," he announced. "The humans have done nothing. As I predicted, their threats were empty. They lacked the military strength to challenge us, and they know it." Some senators nodded, relieved. Others remained skeptical, their scales shifting uneasily. "I propose we continue our current course," Theron continued. "We will expand our territorial claims. We will exploit the human weakness. The Velkari Empire will become the dominant force in this region of space, and the conquered will have no choice but to acknowledge our power." He paused for effect, his chest swelling with pride. "Today marks the beginning of a new era, the era of Velkari supremacy." The lights went out, not just in the Senate chamber, across the entire capital city, across the entire planet, across every Velkari world simultaneously. For exactly 30 seconds, the Velkari Empire went dark. Then the lights returned, as suddenly as they had gone. Emergency systems hummed back to life. Screens flickered and stabilized, and on every screen, on every world, a single line of text appeared. "We warned you." The panic that followed was absolute. Military installations scrambled to assess the situation. Orbital defense platforms ran diagnostics. Fleet commanders demanded status reports, and found nothing wrong. Every system showed normal function. Every defense was intact. Every weapon was operational. But everyone understood the message. The humans had just demonstrated that they could turn off the Velkari Empire whenever they wanted. Every system, every world, every piece of technology. They had chosen not to destroy anything. They had chosen not to kill anyone. This time, Fleet Admiral Koravan reached High Commander Theron within minutes of the blackout. She found him standing in the darkened Senate chamber, staring at the line of text that still glowed on every screen. "We must release the prisoners," she said. "Immediately. Before this goes further." Theron did not respond. "High Commander, did you hear me? We must act now. Whatever pride we sacrifice is nothing compared to what they can do." Theron turned slowly. His eyes were wild, his scales shifting through colors too rapidly to interpret. "They cannot do this. This is impossible. We are the Velkari. We are a power of the Concord. We will not be threatened by primitive apes. With respect, sir, they have already done it. They have proven they can disable our entire civilization at will. We have no defense. We have no response. We have nothing. Then we will find something." Theron slammed his fist against a console. "Gather the fleet. All ships. We will strike at human space. We will show them that the Velkari are not afraid." Koravan stared at him in disbelief. "Sir, that would be suicide. We have no idea what defenses they possess. We do not even know if our ships will function properly in human space. We will function because we are warriors, because we do not surrender, because the Velkari have never bowed to anyone. The Kethrai were warriors too, sir." Theron froze. For a moment, something like sanity flickered in his eyes, then it was gone. "Prepare the fleet, Admiral. That is an order." Koravan saluted stiffly and walked away. She had already decided what she needed to do. 1 hour later, the Velkari fleet began to mobilize. 300 warships, the pride of the Empire, assembled in formation above Velkari Prime. Their engines hummed with power, their weapons powered up. Their crews waited for the order to move. The order never came. As High Commander Theron prepared to give the command, chaos erupted across his fleet. Navigation systems reported that Velkari Prime was located in empty space, thousands of light years from its actual position. Weapons targeting systems locked onto friendly vessels and refused to disengage. Communication channels filled with static and garbled transmissions. And one by one, the orbital defense platforms surrounding Velkari Prime began to rotate, their weapons tracking not toward the stars, but toward the planet itself. "What is happening?" Theron screamed into his communicator. "Report," a calm voice responded. It was not any of his officers. "High Commander Theron Vass." The voice was female, speaking in perfect Velkari. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Human Forces. You failed to meet our deadline. The consequences begin now. You cannot do this. The Concord will not allow it. You will start a galactic war. The Concord has already issued a statement of non-interference. They understand that we did not start this conflict. You did, and we are simply ending it. Theron's scales went white. What do you want? We want our people back. But we have moved beyond simple demands. You had 14 days to comply. You chose not to. Now we will demonstrate why that was unwise. We will release them. Today. Right now. That is no longer sufficient. Admiral Chen's voice remained calm, almost pleasant. You see, High Commander, we have a policy. When our people are taken, we do not simply recover them. We ensure that the party responsible can never threaten us again. Your fleet is crippled. Your defense platforms are now under our control. Your planetary power grid will fail in exactly 3 hours if we choose. Your financial systems have already begun to collapse as we speak. We have not fired a single weapon. We have not killed a single person. But make no mistake, Commander. We can. And we will, if necessary. What do you want? Theron repeated, desperation creeping into his voice. We want you to understand. We want your entire civilization to understand. Humanity is not weak. Humanity is not defenseless. Humanity has simply chosen not to demonstrate its capabilities until now. You have seen a fraction of what we can do. Imagine what else we have prepared. Imagine what we would do if you had harmed our prisoners. Imagine what we will do if anyone ever tries this again. And then, Commander, you will release our people. You will issue a formal apology. You will submit to whatever reparations the Concord deems appropriate. And you will remember, for the rest of your empire's existence, why your elders told you to leave us alone. The transmission ended. Theron stood in silence, surrounded by the chaos of his failing fleet. Officers rushed back and forth, trying desperately to regain control of systems that no longer responded to their commands. On the ground, reports were flooding in. Banks were failing. Power grids were fluctuating. Food distribution networks were showing impossible errors. Medical systems were losing patient records. The entire infrastructure of the Velcari Empire was collapsing, not through destruction, but through simple malfunction. Everything still existed. Nothing worked. And 300 warships hung motionless in space, their weapons pointed at each other, their crews helpless to do anything but watch. Fleet Admiral Korovan approached Theron one final time. Sir, we must surrender. Now. While we still can. Theron looked at her with hollow eyes. I thought we were stronger than them. We were never stronger than them, sir. We were simply fortunate that they never had a reason to show us what they could do. Theron was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, he removed the insignia of his rank and placed it on the console before him. Order the release of the prisoners, he said quietly. Have a formal apology prepared, and contact the Concord. Tell them we surrender unconditionally. Yes, sir. And Admiral? Sir, make sure the apology is sincere. I do not want to give them any reason to demonstrate anything else. The release of the human prisoners was conducted with elaborate ceremony. Captain Elena Vasquez and her crew walked out of their detention facility to find a full honor guard waiting. The highest-ranking officers of the Velcari military standing at attention. Elena walked past them without acknowledging their presence. She paused only once, in front of High Commander Theron, who had been required to attend as part of his penance. You should have listened to your elders, she said simply. Then she continued to the waiting human vessel that had materialized in orbit, passing through Velcari defenses that had been completely powerless to detect it. Behind her, the Velcari Empire began the long process of rebuilding from a defeat that had not killed a single person but had destroyed everything that made them a power. Their military was humiliated. Their economy was in ruins. Their allies had abandoned them. Their enemies watched with predatory interest, sensing weakness. And across the galaxy, species that had doubted the ancient warnings suddenly remembered why the elders had been so afraid. In the Concord's Great Hall, the Arbiter watched the final reports with something approaching satisfaction. It is done, Vesara said. The humans have withdrawn. Their prisoners are safe. The Velcari are broken. Yes, and no one died. I find that remarkable. The Kethri were exterminated. The Velcari were simply dismantled. The Kethri killed humans. The Velcari only held them captive. The response was proportionate. Vesazara considered this. Then the humans can show restraint. The humans always show restraint until they cannot. That is what makes them so terrifying. They do not lash out in anger. They calculate. They prepare. They respond with precisely the force necessary to achieve their objectives. If the Velkari had killed even one prisoner, we would be watching extinction rather than embarrassment. He paused, his crystalline form flickering with ancient memories. The other species must learn from this. They must see what happens when the warnings are ignored. And they must understand that this was mercy. This was the gentle option. Humanity does not want war. They do not want conquest. They want only to be left in peace. But they will never, ever be victims. And those who try to make them victims will discover exactly what lies beneath the surface of that seemingly ordinary species. We were wise to fear them, Vesara. Today proves that we were right. Across human space, life returned to normal with remarkable speed. The merchant vessels that had been captured were replaced. Trade routes resumed. People went back to their jobs, their families, their ordinary lives. Admiral Sarah Chen submitted her final report and returned to her quiet home on the colony world of New Portland. She tended her garden. She read books. She had dinner with her family. No one who met her would have guessed that she had just brought an empire to its knees. This was, perhaps, what made humanity truly dangerous. They could destroy civilizations. They could erase species from existence. They could bring the mighty low with nothing but patience and preparation. And then they could go home and forget about it, because to them, it was not conquest. It was not war. It was simply problem solving. A threat had emerged. The threat had been neutralized. Now life could continue. The Velkari would spend generations recovering from a conflict that humanity had already stopped thinking about. And somewhere, in the dark spaces between stars, the machines that humanity had left behind continued to watch, continued to learn, continued to prepare, just in case, always just in case. 1 year had passed since the fall of the Velkari Empire. The Great Hall of the Conquered had never been so full. Representatives from all 12 member species filled their designated sections, with observers from dozens more crowding into the viewing galleries. Even species that normally avoided galactic politics had sent delegates to witness this moment. High Commander Theron Vass stood in the center of the chamber, stripped of his rank, his scales faded to a dull gray. He wore the simple garments of a criminal, his wrists bound in ceremonial chains. Around him, the evidence of his crimes was displayed on holographic screens. The trial had lasted 3 months. Witnesses had testified. Records had been examined. The full scope of Theron's recklessness had been exposed for all to see. Not before a human court. The humans had not requested any role in the proceedings. They had simply provided evidence when asked and otherwise remained silent. This was Concord justice. And the Concord had been harsh. The arbiter rose to deliver the verdict. His crystalline form glowed with solemn light as he addressed the assembly. Theron Vass, you have been found guilty of crimes against sentient beings. You violated Concord law. You endangered countless lives through your arrogance. You ignored the warnings of the elders. You brought your people to the edge of extinction. The Velkari Empire has paid the price for your ambition. Their military is disbanded. Their worlds are administered by Concord peacekeepers. Their people live under restrictions that will not be lifted for generations. And you, Theron Vass, will spend the remainder of your life on a prison station orbiting a dead star. You will have no visitors. You will have no communication with the outside world. You will have nothing but time to contemplate the consequences of your choices. Theron did not respond. There was nothing left to say. Guards led him away, and the chamber fell silent for a long moment. Then a new figure entered, walking with calm confidence to the center of the hall. Captain Elena Vasquez, now formally designated as humanity's representative to the Concord, stood where Theron had stood moments before. She wore civilian clothes, plain and practical. She carried no weapons. She was accompanied by no guards, and yet every eye in the chamber followed her with something approaching awe. Representatives of the Concord, she began, her voice carrying easily through the vast space. I bring greetings from the United Human Territories. We thank you for the opportunity to address this assembly. The arbiter nodded. You have the floor, Representative Vasquez. I am not here to make demands, Elena said. I am not here to issue threats. I am not here to claim territory or resources or power. I am here to offer a gift. She raised her hand, and a data package appeared in holographic display. Charts and diagrams filled the air, showing medical breakthroughs, agricultural advances, energy technologies. This is our gift to the conquered. The collected knowledge of humanity in fields where we have made progress beyond current galactic standards. Free of charge, no strings attached. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. This was not what anyone had expected. Our medical technology can increase average lifespans by 20% across most species. Our agricultural methods can improve crop yields on marginal worlds by up to 40%. Our energy systems can provide clean power at a fraction of current costs. We offer this knowledge freely because we wish to be good neighbors. We wish to contribute to galactic civilization. We wish to prove that humanity is not the monster that some believe us to be. She paused, letting her words sink in. We never wanted war with the Valkyrie. We never wanted to demonstrate our capabilities in such a dramatic fashion. We simply wanted to trade peacefully, to live quietly, to be left alone. But we will not apologize for what we did. The Valkyrie took our people. They ignored our warnings. They forced us to act. We responded with the minimum force necessary to secure our citizens and protect our interests. No one died. No worlds were destroyed. No species was exterminated. This was our choice. We chose restraint because restraint was possible. Her voice hardened slightly. But let me be absolutely clear. Our restraint was a choice. It can be withdrawn. The temperature in the chamber seemed to drop. The Valkyrie tested our resolve and found it firm. They tested our capabilities and found them overwhelming. They tested our patience and found it exhausted. We would prefer that no other species repeat this experiment. We would prefer to be known as traders and scientists and artists. We would prefer to contribute to galactic peace and prosperity. But if we are forced to demonstrate our other capabilities, we will, without hesitation, without mercy. And the next example will make the Valkyrie seem fortunate. The arbiter leaned forward. Representative Vasquez, may I ask a question? Of course, Arbiter. 3,000 years ago, humanity destroyed the HFY. 14 trillion sentient beings, erased from existence. You say you prefer peace. How do we reconcile this preference with that history? Elena was quiet for a moment, considering her response carefully. The HFY killed 40,000 humans, she said finally. Civilians, colonists, families. They attacked without warning and without provocation. They showed no mercy and offered no terms. We responded in kind. We destroyed them completely because we could not afford to leave survivors. Survivors would have sought revenge. They would have attacked again. The cycle would have continued indefinitely. We chose extinction because extinction was the only way to ensure our children would never face the same threat. It was not a decision we made lightly. It haunts us still. The weight of 14 trillion deaths is not something we carry easily, but we would make the same choice again. And we would make it for any species that kills our people. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each representative in turn. You have heard the stories. You know what we are capable of. Some of you fear us. Some of you hate us. Some of you wish we would simply disappear. But consider this. In 3,000 years, we have fought exactly one war. One. We destroyed the HFY because they gave us no choice. We humbled the Valkyrie because they ignored our warnings. Every other species in this galaxy, we have left in peace. We have traded with you. We have shared knowledge with you. We have asked only to be treated with the same respect we show to others. We are not monsters. We are simply people. People who have learned, through bitter experience, that the universe respects only strength. We do not want to be feared. We want to be friends. But we will never, ever be victims. She fell silent, and for a long moment, no one spoke. Then the arbiter rose, his ancient form radiating something that might have been respect. Representative Vasquez, on behalf of the Concord, I thank you for your words and for your gift. We accept both in the spirit in which they are offered. I move that Directive 7 be elevated from a recommendation to the highest law of galactic civilization. Henceforth, any species that provokes humanity will face immediate expulsion from the Concord and will receive no protection or assistance from any member world. Furthermore, I move that humanity be offered full membership in the Concord, with all the rights and responsibilities that entails. The vote was unanimous. As the assembly dispersed, Vessera approached the arbiter. You offered them membership, she said. After everything that has happened. After everything they have done. After everything they could have done and chose not to, the arbiter corrected. The Velkari attacked them. The humans responded with restraint. They could have exterminated the Velkari as easily as they exterminated the Kethrai. They chose mercy instead. That means something. That suggests they can be reasoned with. That suggests they genuinely want peace. And, if they do not, the Arbiter's form flickered with dark amusement. Then it hardly matters whether they are members of the Concord or not. Does it? If humanity truly wanted to destroy us, there is nothing we could do to stop them. Better to have them as allies than as enemies. Better to understand them than to fear them. Better to trust their stated intentions than to provoke them through suspicion. He paused, ancient memories stirring within his crystalline structure. Besides, Directive 7 remains in effect. It has simply been formalized. We will continue to avoid provoking humanity. And now they have a stake in galactic stability. They have a reason to protect the Concord, rather than destroy it. This is the best outcome we could have hoped for. The Velkari have been punished. Humanity has been satisfied. The galaxy has received a reminder of why the old warnings exist, and perhaps, in time, we will learn to see the humans not as monsters, but as what they claim to be. Simply people, trying to survive in a dangerous universe. Across the galaxy, life continued. The Velkari slowly rebuilt their shattered civilization, now under the watchful eye of conquered administrators. Their children learned a new history in their schools, one that emphasized the consequences of arrogance and the importance of respecting other species. The Conquered implemented new protocols for dealing with human space. Trade agreements were formalized. Cultural exchange programs were established. Scientists from dozens of species traveled to human worlds to learn from their remarkable technology, and the old warnings were carved into stone on every world, in every language, impossible to forget or ignore. The humans are not weak. They are not primitive. They are not safe. Do not provoke them. Do not threaten them. Do not harm them. Their mercy is a gift. Their wrath is extinction. Captain Elena Vasquez returned to her cargo ship after her speech to the Concord. She had been offered positions of power, titles of prestige, rewards beyond measure. She had refused them all. "I am a traitor," she explained to the bewildered Concord officials. "That is all I ever wanted to be. I got caught up in something bigger, but it is over now. I want to go back to my life." And so she did. She returned to the merchant routes, carrying cargo between stars, living quietly among her crew. The universe faded back to normal around her, but sometimes, late at night, she would stand at the viewport of her ship and stare out at the stars. She would think about the Velkari guards she had met, the young ones who had shown her small kindnesses during her imprisonment. She hoped they were doing well. She would think about the Kethrai, a species she had never known, erased from existence before she was born. 14 trillion lives, ended because they made the wrong choice. She would think about the responsibility that came with humanity's power, the terrible burden of knowing that her species could destroy civilizations with barely any effort, and she would hope that no one would ever force them to use that power again. But she knew, deep in her heart, that hope was not enough. There would always be another Theron, another ambitious leader who believed the old warnings were exaggeration. There would always be another species that thought they could take what they wanted without consequence. And when that happened, humanity would respond, as they always had, as they always would, not with anger or malice, not with joy or pride, simply with cold, calculated efficiency, because that was what they were. That was what the universe had made them: survivors, protectors, and, when necessary, destroyers. The galaxy had learned its lesson. For now, but somewhere, in some distant corner of the cosmos, another civilization was rising. Another species was developing faster than light travel. Another ambitious leader was dreaming of conquest and glory. And one day, they too would encounter humanity. They too would hear the warnings. They too would have to choose whether to listen or to learn the hard way. The cycle was endless. The pattern was eternal. But for now, there was peace. For now, the galaxy slept quietly, secure in the knowledge that the most dangerous species in the universe had chosen to be gentle. For now, always for now. Elena turned away from the viewport and returned to her duties. There was cargo to move, schedules to keep, life to live. Behind her, the stars burned in the darkness, ancient and patient, waiting, always waiting, just in case.